Hello guys, it's me, Butterfly Spirit 314. So in today's video, oh, my camera was readjusting. That's really cute that it's doing that right now. Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to talk about a notification that I just got on my Facebook. So I got a notification that 11 years ago today, I got engaged to be married. And I want to talk about that a little bit because I didn't end up getting married or anything, but I do want to talk about the fact that I don't think that at that time that it would have been the best time for me to have gotten married. Um, and the reason is because I think that, I went through the process of reading the book. Let's see, The Five Love Languages, I believe, by Gary Chapman. So I read that. I took the like premarital test. I tried out, premarital counseling with my boyfriend at the time. And even though I did all those things, I still don't think that I was ready to get married. I don't think so because basically, I really was not a good listener in that relationship, and I can really own that and say that my listening was lacked to be desired. I mean, I definitely have great qualities and stuff, but I think listening for me was not my strongest suit. And I think that's kind of something that got me into trouble a lot with me not being much of a listener. Now, years later, we're no longer together, but um, even still, I still have love for him. And to me, that's not something that's going to change for me because I'm still inspired by him, and also there are things I'm still learning from that relationship that is helping me to improve my life in ways. And so I really have to say that I think that it really it really was helpful. um, and nobody likes breakups, nobody likes going through that or anything. But I think one of the things is that I think breakups can be helpful because it can help you to start to kind of get back on track and to kind of see where maybe you may have overcompensated or maybe things that you stopped doing for yourself. And that's kind of some things that I did, which is that I kind of put myself on the back burner, which I think that um, I don't think I should have done that, but that was a me problem, not a him problem. And so I think that for me, marriage really wouldn't have been the best for me because I think at the time I would have went into it as really it being something for people in my family to finally like value me or to see me as a person of value. Because growing up, I wasn't really particularly looked at as a kid that was like worthwhile or was known for doing anything. There were kids in my family who were looked at as being like, oh, they're good at this or they're good at that. But for me, there wasn't anything that I was like highlighted for being the best at. And so, that definitely, had an impact on me. And I think at this point right now, um, I'm still finding myself and figuring life out. I'm never going to be perfect. But one thing I can do is understand that, you know, I'm always going to be, if I really want to like make improvement in myself, the best thing I can do is really start to learn from like mistakes and things that I, made. And I think the good thing about, when you make a mistake, yeah, you can fail, but you can learn from that failure and you can turn that into a success. And so for me in particular, I think that, marriage, I think I would have really went into it without really knowing what it was really about. And I mean, marriage is a commitment. You're saying you're going to be with somebody for the rest of your life. And, there's a lot of tough decisions that can go into a marriage and stuff, and it can. And I mean, if you haven't really seen people in your life who have been married that have, who have made it for a long time, you may not really know what you're walking into. And for me personally, my parents in particular, they separated. They never divorced, but they separated. Um, and so I didn't really see like a good example growing up. I mean, there were women in my family who got married and stuff, and their role was okay, get married and have kids. That was really it. But I noticed that a lot of women in my family, they really stopped growing. Their lives are really about their kids and running the household. For my mom, like I feel like my mom was very good at always like keeping things afloat. Like she knew how to, she really sacrificed a lot. And maybe that's where I get that from myself, is like sacrificing my own needs for other people, because I saw my mom do it and things. And so, like, I think in a sense, one of the things that I feel is that, I don't want to be somebody who stops growing and stops learning. I don't want to be that person. And I think when I was in a relationship, learning from other females in my family, I learned that, okay, the relationship is the most important thing. But the thing is that in a relationship, I can still grow. I don't have to stop and not grow, you know. And I think when I was in a relationship, I didn't know that. Now I'm starting to understand that, I should still be growing whether I'm in a relationship or not. I should still keep growing and still, having goals and different things like that. I shouldn't just drop things because I'm in a relationship and things like that. And I think that was one of the things that was kind of negative for me, is that I didn't know that it was okay for me to do things like that, I could still grow in things and stuff. So I did not know that. But one thing I can say is that I am pretty optimistic about the future. I'm very optimistic about the things I'm learning. I'm optimistic about the experiences that I'm having and things that I'm learning. I'm really embracing things and learning that, it's okay for me to get into hobbies that I'm interested in. That is completely okay. So, me doing things like pole dancing or chair dancing, doing things like that, or twerking, whatever it is I want to try out and do, it's okay for me to do those things. And, I don't have to, get approval from people. I mean, it's nice when I get encouragement in things in my classes, which I love. But it's, the fact is, I can still grow and I can still learn. And I think one of the most wonderful things is that I have the actual time to learn from mistakes that I made to improve. And I know, listening wise, I've gotten a lot better because I've built deeper relationships with people that I work with. And, I'm starting to kind of, instead of just having conversations with them where like, I hear what they say and it goes, goes in one ear and goes out the other. For me now, what happens is that, I'm learning, like I'm actually, when I'm listening to people, I'm learning that, that there are people that are going through pains in life like I am. There was a girl at my job recently that I know, she's in another department, and she was mentioning in the break room, she was talking to someone, like another coworker, in another department, and she was talking about the fact that she had gotten a chance to get her mother's house and stuff, and she mentioned that her mom died 9 years ago. And for those of you who don't know, I lost my mom several years ago. And so, all these years, I've been kind of going through life and thinking that, oh, I'm this person alone with going through this experience. But then here's somebody is at work and they share something so personal and something, they share something so vulnerable with someone else. And that person may not remember that. But one thing that I took away from that conversation, even though I wasn't part of it, is that I took away the fact that that people share things with us every day and they're vulnerable. But the things is that we may miss it because we are preoccupied or not hearing what's going on. And so, like, I really can say that I totally regret, not being the best listener. But one thing is that I do have a role model. So, my grandmother, she's not alive anymore. She passed when I was, I think, when I was in fifth grade. But one thing I learned from my grandmother, and one reason she's a role model, is one of the things my grandmother was really great at was listening to people. And I always wondered, like, why is it that people always went to my grandmother to, talk to her about this and that? And that's because she was a really great listener. And for me, that's something that I'm wanting to do is get to the point where people feel comfortable coming to me and talking to me about things like they did when it came to my grandmother. And so, like, I definitely have, a goal to reach, some shoes to fill in terms of listening. But I think it's just having that positive influence to me that makes the difference. And I think one of the things that my grandmother also inspires in me is the fact that my grandmother, and I think this is something I can learn from, is that my grandmother always like had friends and stuff. And, she would be about being around people and having a good time. And I think that's something that I like to bring into my life as well. And the thing is, guys might be asking, well, if you got engaged 11 years ago, are you going to be looking forward to getting married at some point in the future? Well, if it happens in the future, I think that I'll be okay with it if it does. But I think even if I do decide to get married at some point, I still want to continue to learn and grow. I still want to progress. I still want to be someone that is still figuring out life for myself and, still doing things that I can to help people. I think that's really what I'm going to be hoping to do, you know? And so I think for me, that is something that's going to be really the most important to me is continuing to learn and grow. And I think I'm off to a good start right now, by learning. And I think that's all I can really do. So at this point right now, hey, if it happens in the future, I'm open to it. But I'm still not going to let that be the only thing in my life. And I think at that point too, I really want to take the opportunity to really, like really learn more about whoever the person is that I end up being with, and start to hear what they have to say, because there's nothing worse than talking to somebody who doesn't hear you. It could be very frustrating. And I can agree it's probably annoying as hell. So I'm sure my boyfriend had to definitely put up with a lot, who then became my fiance. But I'm sure it probably wasn't a cakewalk necessarily, or easiest with me. But I will say I am definitely grateful to him because the things that I'm learning is really inspiring me to become better and to move forward. And so I'm very happy about that. And most of all, I'm happy about, just being able to learn and move forward and just like learn new stuff. I think that's like the most fun thing about life is that every day we have the opportunity to learn and to grow and to become better and stuff. So that's what I have to say about that. But yeah, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. Nope. I wasn't ready. But one day I might be. We'll see. But back then, no, I'm ready. But maybe someday I'll be. Anyway, thanks for watching, y'all. Bye.